Today we're interviewing the CEO of Amniotics, Kåre Engkilde. Welcome to this interview.
Thank you, Martin.
Can you start off by giving us a brief background of yourself?
Sure, and it's always a difficult question, how brief should it be? But I would say, have a background as a biochemical engineer, have done a PhD in immunology and dermatology and allergy, followed up with a postdoc in immunology, type 1 diabetes, and dermatology again, as well as immunology. Have done my work as well at Novo Nordisk, Leo Pharma, small B2B business in selling out services at a small company called Pioneer, and also been working with Agilent Technology, heading up their medical and clinical affairs, would say ensuring that the products for pathology and pathology diagnostics comes out to the market, ensuring that interaction with the key opinion leaders and so forth before being recruited to Amniotics.
Okay, and let's talk about Amniotics. Could you give us a brief explanation on what you do?
Yeah, sure. And this is always a bit of a difficult thing because it easily gets complicated. But if we start off with what the names comes from, Amniotics comes from amnion, and amnion is the English word for amniotic fluid, and amniotic fluid is the same as fostervatten in Swedish. So if we start off from that kind of gives the base of what we are. And from there, I would say we are very much a full-fledged company, very much a full-fledged pharmaceutical company, because we have all the way from the source all the way to the end product. So to begin out with there, we have a device that is CE marked, patented, to, you could say, take the fluid from plant C-sections, the fostervatten, the amniotic fluid from plant C-sections. That fluid in the bag, in the device we've constructed and patented, is transported to our GMP facility. We have a full GMP facility, fully approved, fully built out and ready. And there we sort the fluid for the cells, and the cells are further sorted for the various indications that we are working on. And they are each then expanded, proliferated towards a fill and finish. And then in the fill and finish, from there, we actually all the way ready for clinical trials or for the market. So in that sense, you could say we really have the whole setup in our small company. And in that sense, it's also important to understand that what we work with is stem cell, mesenchymal stem cells, taking, you could say, from the amniotic fluid. Hence, it's neonatal. It's these very potent, very young cells that have a very strong ability in regeneration. And furthermore, the selection we do is based on the tissue specificity they have. Going back from the thought that a cell that is in the lung, that is targeting the lung, is better for lung indication and lung diseases than a cell taken from some other tissue that has no relevance with lung whatsoever. So from that, we build our pipeline, we build our platform. So in that sense, we are a platform company. We have PulmoStem targeting lung indication and respiratory indication. We have CogniStem targeting CNS diseases and neurological diseases. We have QTStem targeting dermatological diseases and skin diseases. And finally, we have NephroStem targeting kidney diseases. So we really have a very broad spectrum of various indication that we can target with our product pipeline.
Interesting. And how large would you say that your approachable market is?
I would say it's $1 billion, because as going back to that, you could say each of these products, PulmoStem, CogniStem, and so forth, each of these products can reach $1 billion market. So in that sense, we really have an opportunity here to bring these products forward into clinic, onto the market, and diversify them into various indications from that. So it's a huge market when we look at it that sense. Also to understand, cell therapy is of course a more costly product than a small molecule that can be produced in a chemical plant. Hence, we are targeting areas where we really see that this type of product is really what you need for treatment of patients.
And could you please elaborate a bit on your ARDS/COVID-19 program?
Sure. You could say Acute respiratory distress syndrome, ARDS, is a syndrome. It's not, you could say in that sense, a very clear description of what you could say leads to acute respiratory distress syndrome. There are several factors that can lead to acute respiratory distress syndrome. One of them can be COVID-19, and hence that's the way to think of it. And what we're targeting here is the patients that are hospitalized. So hospitalized patients that are a need of treatments and have, you would say, a cytokine storm and acute inflammation in the lungs and in the full body, and really need treatments for that. And that is what we're targeting with that indication. And that can, you could say, by itself is an orphan indication, and can there, you could say, lead into many different developments onward. So that is the target for our COVID-19 ARDS program.
And you recently announced that you have submitted for a clinical study of the drug PulmoStem. If approved, what are the next steps during 2022?
Yeah, then you could say we've submitted for several countries, and this is targeted towards COVID-19/ARDS. So this is targeting towards this, you could say, category of patients, and it will enable us to have a proof of principle of working with these cells in this clinical setting, enabling us to move towards, you could say, critically ill patients that have an acute respiratory distress syndrome, potentially moving forward, but also targeting, you could say, collecting some of the early markers of fibrosis, on inflammations, and so forth. So enabling us to really, you could say, grasp a lot of information on our product in a clinical setting, which is always, you could say, some of the areas where it can be difficult for a product to get that full grasp of your product and what it can do.
And what are the main conclusions that you would like to see from this study?
I would say, for sure, one of the things is, of course, we want safety and tolerability. We are quite certain that we will get that. But from there, I would very much like if we are able to look at inflammatory markers and see them being reduced, if we can even look at fibrotic markers and seeing them reduced, and also looking at whether we can, you could say, enable these patients to regenerate further. And from that, one of the readouts is fatigue, looking at fatigue and the lack of energy in these patients. And hopefully these patients will be quicker at you could say, regenerate themselves and getting the energy back they had before they got the disease.
Okay, the mutation of the COVID virus is an ongoing process with changing structures of the virus. How big of a problem are the mutations in creating an effective drug?
You would say that is, of course, what we can all clearly see when it comes to both the vaccines and potentially some of the drugs for the treatment of this disease. All of them have this issue that they are targeted towards this virus, and since it's developing, they sometimes lose the efficacious part of that. So working with our cells have a different approach. It's not focused on, you would say, the target itself, the virus itself. It's targeting the inflammation that it causes. So in the enabling to reduce that inflammation and reduce some of the potential scarring that starts and some of the fibrotic issues that can come with this disease. So that is how our product is conceived to work and what we have seen in preclinic. So we don't see with our product an issue with the development of the virus, but of course other products can have that issue.
PulmoStem has also joined a project that is funded by the Swedish innovation agency Vinnova. Could you please elaborate on this project?
Certainly, you could say we've been very grateful for the support from Vinnova, and what we really want to focus on here is lung transplantation. Lung transplantation is you could say the end-stage treatment for some of these very severe respiratory and pulmonary diseases. So acute respiratory distress syndrome, for one, can lead to lung transplantation. Lung fibrosis can lead to lung transplantation. So there's several different diseases targeting the lungs that can lead to lung transplantations. And there are these issues with lung transplantation that there's a lack of sufficient lungs, you could say, that has sufficient properties to be used in transplant. And also after the transplant, that these patients get what's called, graft issues, that they develop issues with the lungs, what you call primary graft dysfunctions. So if we can see, and this is some of the exploratory data that we've collected, that our cells are able to, you could say, reduce some of the inflammatory processes that begins in the lungs prior to transplant, and where we've also seen that they have the potential of reducing what's called primary graft dysfunction post-transplant. And this is very much what we want to build upon and hopefully also be able to bring into clinic.
Okay, and to round up this interview, what will be Amniotics' main focus in the coming quarters?
Well, the coming quarters will very much be focusing on PulmoStem, focusing on the respiratory indication and that area. That will be very much focused on the whole team and you could say growing that product pipeline product. But we'll also be looking at some of the other products and being able to bring them forward into preclinical studies further than we are right now. So one of them we're looking quite a lot on as well is CogniStem for the neuro, as well as QTStem for the skin. So these are part of the products that we'll also bring further into the non-clinical space. But certainly you could say PulmoStem is right now very much what we'll be focusing on to really deliver what we've said we would.
Okay, thank you very much, Kåre, for participating in this interview, and we wish you good luck in the future.
Thank you, and thank you for the chance here to you could say, give an input on Amniotics and get a more, you could say, full-fledged view of the company.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Thank you.